Dr. Abdullah Salim Salawi is Associate Professor of Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages and of Applied Linguistics. He teaches and directs a graduate degree and a licensure program at ESU. Dr. Salawi has secured funding through the U.S. Department of Education to help certify teachers in TESOL throughout Kansas. These grants have benefited more than 33 school districts and over 398 teachers in the state of Kansas. The grants cover salaries for instructors and administrative assistant, graduate research assistants, computers and supplies, instructional resources, and the cost of tuition, textbooks, and professional development activities. Dr. Salawi is often invited to speak at national and international conferences and summits. His research and creative activities have allowed him to serve as guest editor and reviewer in an international journal. A recent issue of the journal focused upon our understanding of the sociolinguistic resources and issues across the United States. Dr. Salawi has published in the areas of cross-cultural communication, computer-assisted language learning, heritage language, sociolinguistics, as well as the area of assessing the effectiveness of TESOL teacher training. As a member of the Kansas TESOL, which is affiliated with the International TESOL Organization, Dr. Salawi is currently serving as Kansas TESOL president to promote its research and educational services in the state of Kansas. He organized the Kansas TESOL Annual Conference, which was hosted at ESU in March of 2008. Dr. Salawi is a recipient of the Emporia State University President's Leadership and Diversity Award, Who's Who Among International Scholars, a recipient of the Wall of Tolerance Award, and has been invited to present at the Oxford Roundtable International Conference in England. Dr. Salawi is competent in 5 languages: Arabic, French, English, Berber, and Spanish. Fortunately, on behalf of your dean, he'll be addressing us today in English. I'm grateful for that. He's agreed to restrict himself today. Please help me welcome Dr. Salawi.
Thank you, Dean Brown. Thank you all for coming to this gathering to discuss and share information. This is an excellent opportunity, and I congratulate the advisory council, Dean's Advisory Council, and whoever suggested the idea and supports this idea. And I'm very honored to be among you. I don't think I know more than you do already. And I just want to share some, a little bit of what I know and what I have learned. In this area, heritage language education is a new field. It's a developing and revolving field that is very challenging, not only to the United States, but worldwide. And I came from a very multilingual, sociolinguistically speaking context and society that being multilingual is a natural thing. It's a given. It's not something that we question. In Morocco, that's where I came from. I could have asked you to guess where I'm from, and you start telling me that you are from Middle East. No, I'm not from the Middle East. I'm from Northwest Africa. And the reason I grew up multilingual is for many reasons. If you'd like to know more about that, there is a reference here that I shared that information in how my multiple literacies developed and helped me as a professional and as a global citizen. Okay. Why did I pick the topic? Because I have some other projects that I could have picked and shared with you, but this is very close to my heart. It is something that I feel that there is an urgency and importance in the United States as well as elsewhere, that we need to start thinking about and look at the consequences of losing heritage languages. I'm going to talk about diversity. This is all related to diversity. One of the most striking features of our world is its astonishing diversity. Now, when we think diversity, not many people think about it as a whole picture that includes the diverse ecosystems that we have in our planet, as well as its cultures and languages. and how these two kinds of diversities are interconnected. In fact, there are many studies that have looked into that connection already. So when we mess up with one part of this huge ecosystem that includes languages and cultures, we are messing up with the whole thing. So when we hear that language such and such is gone, is dead, that's bad news for humanity. It's a loss, which has consequences, and only scientists know that are also interpreted and translated into bio and ecosystems that are affected by that. In 2001, the UNESCO made it clear that the Universal Declaration on Cultural Diversity was adopted and recognized as a relationship, and that there is a relationship between biodiversity, cultural diversity, and linguistic diversity. So this is not something that we still have to explain, and it's already now established. Now let me ask you, I'm going to do it a little bit more interactively a little bit. What is culture? I would like the audience to share with me what culture is. All right, come on.
Languages, beliefs.
Beliefs, languages, excellent. Come on, quick, come. Yes.
A set of languages, beliefs, cultures, and identities that people share.
Okay, all of that, yes. Anything else?
Customs, traditions.
Customs, traditions. My students, be quiet. I see your eyes are. Yes, sir.
It's the way of life.
The way of life, okay. The way of life. Anything else? Since we got the way of life, now perhaps it includes all of that. Now, my students, you can talk. What is missing from this definition that you've just heard? Ms. Miller?
It's a struggle of representation over meaning.
It is a struggle
Mm-hmm.
over what? Over meaning and representation. It's a dynamic process.
Constantly
Before it's to, I'm sorry?
Constantly changing.
It's constantly changing. Yes, it's a dynamic process that is constantly changing, and it is a struggle. Conflict. You mean there is always a conflict on a daily basis? Yes. Okay? In fact, according to research in the area, which this is another area that is one of my major research is in cross-cultural communication and cultural studies. From a critical perspective, in addition to it being a way of life, the sum total of beliefs, customs, and blah, 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 this is the traditional prevailing definition of what culture is. But critical theory tells us, yes, all of that is product. Okay? There is process. And that process is what is not focused on. Even in schools, what do we see? We see products of culture being celebrated. For example, and this is a mere coincidence today. Today, this is November, and in November we celebrate the Native American culture, right? Yes? Yes or no? That's basically how it goes. And February is the African American month, and March is the Moroccan. Yes? No. Well, if we go like that, we have to go like that, right? No, that's anyway. Now, when we go and we look at the celebrations, of course, what do we see? We see clothes, foods, etc., all products of culture. Do we see processes being celebrated? Not really. For example, how African Americans think or believe or feel or process information or perceive, etc. So, the definition is, according to the critical perspective, it is viewed as a dynamic process within a given social context in which individuals are in a constant struggle for representation and the need to have an authentic voice. Now, when we look at this, each one of us here in this room, how many cultures do we have here? As many as individuals we have, right? So, the moment two individuals are in contact or interact between each other, we have cross-cultural communication going on automatically. You do not need to have a Japanese and a Moroccan in order to say we have cross-cultural communication. We know that because each one of us is culturally unique. Therefore, it's a culture by itself, right there. Now, how many cultures are there in the world? And how many languages are there in the world? Again, my students, be quiet. Give me some guesses for languages. How many languages are in the world, people?
Tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands.
6 billion?
6 billion. Some other numbers, please. Yes, sir.
I think it's just a few hundred.
Few hundred. Okay. Well, we have from billions or millions to a few hundreds. That's a big range. Okay. According to linguists, there are 6,917 languages in the world. So if we had a prize of who was close, we could do something. All right, 6,917 languages in the world. And due to my laziness, I only speak 5. And I feel bad because I know that my brain is capable of doing more. But it's my laziness that prevents me from learning more. And of course, laziness, you can add to it the socio-economic and cultural context where you grow up. That's very important also. The Encyclopedia of World Cultures has entries on over 15 different culture groups. However, given the interconnectedness of language and culture and the fact that every one of us here is unique, then how many cultures do we have? Then we can talk billions of cultures, yes. All right. Linguistic diversity, this is very alarming. Look at that. According to Raymond, 2005, the number of languages listed for the United States of America is 238 listed. I didn't say that are spoken or used or anything. Listed on the list. And among those, 162 are living languages. 3 are second language without mother tongue speakers. And 73 are extinct. Unfortunately, that's very, very sad, the number of extinct languages is still growing. In other words, like any other species in this planet, we are losing species, we are losing languages, and those things are interconnected, as I said in the very beginning. Some terminology, if you care to know about the definition. A heritage language speaker is somebody who comes from a home where a language other than English is spoken, who speaks or understands the home language, and who is more or less bilingual in English and the home language. Mother tongue, as it says, is typically thought of as the language of the one that learns first and knows best. And that's the definition again of that. An extinct language is one that has minus competence, minus performance. What does that mean? That means that there are no records preserved for it, nor speakers or users of the language. So that's why it's called, technically, extinct, gone. There is nothing left from that language. A sleeping language, as we will see later, is a language that has competence, but minus performance. In other words, they are on the verge of becoming extinct. Now, this table or chart will show you what I'm talking about here. So the farther you move to that direction, the more endangered that language is. And the further you come to this other side, to the left, the less endangered that language is. And then, of course, the extinct languages are out of that box, meaning they are dead, gone. This is very recent. This is up to date, 2008. And you can see when the language is widely spoken and associated with powerful groups, it is safe. So you can see that association between humans and language, between humans, language, and other species and the environment, and all that cycle right there. The process of language loss. Most immigrant children speak their heritage language haltingly, broken language. Most of them lose or never develop the ability to read and write it to write in it or to speak it formally. This is a link to a document that I have.